the scars of bubbles from dot-com to housing bust, the dot-com bubble, the housing crisis. These weren't just Wall Street events. They left scars on household wealth across America. Families saw savings evaporate. Retirement dreams were put on hold. These events underscore a harsh reality. Financial bubbles are more than just abstract economic theory.
These bubbles devastate more than just bank accounts. They erode trust in financial systems. They fuel social unrest. They force people to question their faith in capitalism itself. The societal hangover from a burst bubble can linger for generations.
Beyond greed, the human element of financial bubbles. It's easy to blame greed when markets overheat. We point fingers at speculators, accusing them of reckless gambling. But the truth is, bubbles are fueled by a potent cocktail of human emotions. Greed might play a role, but so does fear, hope, and the deeply ingrained human need to belong.
When asset prices climb, FOMO, fear of missing out, sets in. People who were once content sitting on the sidelines feel compelled to join the party. This herd mentality, driven by our innate desire to be part of the group, can push prices far beyond reasonable levels. The problem is, these decisions, while seemingly irrational in hindsight, often feel perfectly logical in the moment. We convince ourselves that this time is different. We latch onto narratives that justify the soaring prices. We ignore warning signs, blinded by the potential for quick riches.
The illusion of logic, when bubbles make sense. Consider the dot-com bubble. Investors poured money into internet companies, many with no profits and unproven business models. Was it purely irrational exuberance, or was there a logic to the madness?
At the time, the internet was transforming how we lived and worked. Investors saw a future where e-commerce and online services would revolutionize the world. They were right about the transformative power of the internet. They were just wrong about the timeline and the ability to pick winners in a nascent industry. This highlights a crucial aspect of bubbles. They often contain a grain of truth. There's usually some underlying technological innovation or economic shift that fuels the initial optimism. The problem is that this initial spark gets amplified by speculation, loose credit, and a flood of new investors, creating a disconnect between price and value. Section 4, the politics of bubbles, lessons in hindsight. There's an interesting parallel between financial bubbles and political parties after an election. When a party loses, there's a chorus of voices claiming they knew it all along. They point to overlooked warning signs and criticize the losing party's strategy.
Similarly, after a bubble bursts, everyone suddenly becomes an expert. We blame regulators for not intervening sooner, economists for failing to predict the crash, and investors for their blind optimism. But in the midst of the bubble, these same voices are often drowned out by the euphoria.
This "I knew it all along" phenomenon makes it incredibly difficult to identify and address bubbles in real time. Calling a bubble is a career risk. Those who sound the alarm too early risk looking foolish. Those who wait for undeniable proof often end up being right too late. Section 5. The trouble with calling a bubble. A controversial claim. Pointing out a potential bubble is like walking into a crowded theater and yelling fire. It's a bold claim, fraught with uncertainty and potential consequences. If you're right, you're hailed as a visionary. If you're wrong, you're branded a fearmonger.
This fear of being wrong prevents many experts from speaking out against bubbles. Even if they see the warning signs, they're hesitant to go against the prevailing sentiment. This reluctance to call out bubbles stems from the inherent complexity of financial markets. There are countless variables at play, making it nearly impossible to predict with certainty when an asset is truly overvalued.
However, one key reason bubbles persist lies in the different time horizons of investors. Not everyone is playing the same game. Some investors are in it for the quick flip, while others have a much longer-term perspective. This difference in investment goals creates a breeding ground for bubbles. Section 6, different horizons, different bubbles. Time frames matter. Let's take Google as an example. A day trader might buy Google stock hoping to capitalize on short-term price fluctuations. A long-term investor, however, might buy and hold Google for years, believing in the company's long-term growth potential. Both investors can be right, even if the stock experiences a significant correction in the short term.
This disconnect between short-term trading and long-term investing creates a breeding ground for bubbles. When short-term speculators dominate the market, prices can become detached from underlying fundamentals. This is especially true in markets with easy access to leverage where investors can amplify their bets.
The truth is, financial bubbles are incredibly complex phenomena. Understanding them requires delving into the psychology of crowds, the allure of speculation, and the varying time horizons of market participants. While we may never be able to fully predict or prevent bubbles, recognizing the factors that contribute to their formation can help us navigate markets with a more cautious and informed approach.